Why the birth of Yeshua disturbed Israel's leadership. Over 2,000 years ago, the birth of a child in Bethlehem shook the foundations of Israel's leadership. Why did this seemingly humble event create such turmoil among the political and religious elites of the time? In this video, we'll explore the multifaceted reasons behind the disturbance caused by the birth of Yeshua. We'll draw from biblical texts, the Talmud, and historical context to unravel the complex dynamics at play. From the threat to King Herod's throne to the challenge posed to the religious authorities, we'll dive deep into the reasons why the arrival of the Messiah was not welcomed by all. To understand why Yeshua's birth disturbed Israel's leadership, we must first grasp the political landscape. At the time, Israel was under Roman occupation, and King Herod ruled as a client king, appointed by the Romans. Herod, though of Jewish descent, was known for his loyalty to Rome and his oppressive rule. Herod was a complex figure. On one hand, he was a great builder, responsible for the magnificent expansion of the Second Temple in Jerusalem. On the other hand, he was infamous for his paranoia and brutality, even ordering the execution of his own family members to protect his throne. In Matthew chapter 2 verse 1-3, we see the first reaction to Yeshua's birth. When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. This verse encapsulates the fear that gripped the leadership upon hearing the news of a new king of the Jews. For Herod, this title was more than symbolic, it was a direct threat to his authority. Herod's fear was not unfounded. In a politically volatile environment, any hint of rebellion or challenge to the established order could have dire consequences. The idea of a new, divinely appointed king threatened to upend the fragile peace maintained by Roman power and Herod's rule. Herod's paranoia is famously demonstrated in the event known as the Massacre of the Innocents. After the Magi failed to report back to him, Herod ordered the killing of all male infants in Bethlehem and its vicinity, as recorded in Matthew chapter 2 verse 16. Matthew ties this brutal act to the prophecy in Jeremiah chapter 31 verse 15. A voice is heard in Ramah, weeping and great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children and refusing to be comforted, because they are no more. This fulfillment of prophecy highlights the deep spiritual and prophetic dimensions of Yeshua's birth. Herod's drastic measures reflect the extreme lengths to which he was willing to go to eliminate any perceived threats to his reign. His fear of losing power led him to commit one of the most infamous atrocities in biblical history. The Holy Family's flight into Egypt not only ensured Jesus' survival but also fulfilled another prophecy. Hosea chapter 11 verse 1, "Out of Egypt I called my son." Herod's actions inadvertently aligned with divine plans, further highlighting the clash between earthly power and divine purpose. While Herod's reaction was driven by political concerns, the religious leaders in Israel, the Sanhedrin, composed of the Pharisees and Sadducees, had their own reasons to be disturbed by Yeshua's birth. These religious elites wielded significant power and were the custodians of Jewish law and tradition. The religious leadership was well aware of prophecies like Isaiah chapter 7 verse 14, which spoke of a virgin bearing a child, and Micah chapter 5 verse 2, predicting a ruler from Bethlehem. These prophecies fed into the messianic expectations of the Jewish people. However, The Messiah they anticipated was a powerful political leader who would liberate Israel from Roman rule, not a humble child born in a manger. Yeshua's birth, and later his teachings, did not align with the expectations of the Sanhedrin. His emphasis on spiritual renewal, critique of religious hypocrisy, and challenges to the authority of the Pharisees and Sadducees threatened the established religious order. In Matthew chapter 23 verse 27, Yeshua openly criticizes the Pharisees, calling them whitewashed tombs, beautiful on the outside but full of dead bones within. Similarly, in Luke chapter 11 verse 39-40, he condemns them for focusing on external purity while neglecting internal righteousness. These confrontations made Yeshua a target for the religious authorities who saw him as a disruptive force. The Talmud, though compiled later, reflects some of the religious concerns of the time. In Sanhedrin 43a, there's a mention of a figure who led Israel astray, likely referencing the ongoing challenges posed by messianic figures like Yeshua. The religious authorities were vigilant in protecting Jewish law from perceived threats, and Yeshua's teachings certainly fell into that category. Yeshua's birth also carried deep prophetic significance, fulfilling numerous Old Testament prophecies. These fulfillments disturbed the leadership because they pointed to Jesus as the long-awaited Messiah, yet in a way that defied their expectations. Zechariah chapter 9 verse 9 speaks of a humble king riding on a donkey, a prophecy fulfilled during Yeshua's triumphal entry into Jerusalem. This event, recorded in all four Gospels, symbolized a direct challenge to both political and religious leaders, as it reinforced Jesus' claim to messianic authority. Isaiah chapter 53 verse 3 describes the suffering servant, despised and rejected by mankind. Yeshua's life, marked by rejection and suffering, aligned with this prophecy, further unsettling those who expected a triumphant, worldly Messiah. Throughout his ministry, Yeshua consistently defied expectations. He reached out to the marginalized, challenged the religious elite, and preached a message of spiritual transformation. This radical approach disturbed the leadership because it threatened to undermine their control over the religious and social order. In John chapter 11 verse 47-48, the chief priests and Pharisees expressed their fears. "What are we accomplishing?" they asked. "If we let him go on like this, everyone will believe in him, and then the Romans will come and take away both our temple and our nation." This passage reveals the deep-seated anxiety that Jesus' growing influence could provoke a backlash from Rome, endangering the entire nation. It's important to note that Yeshua was not the only messianic figure during this turbulent period. The Jewish historian Josephus documents numerous revolts and messianic claims, all of which were seen as threats by both Roman and Jewish authorities. In Josephus' Antiquities of the Jews, we find accounts of various individuals who claimed to be the Messiah, leading uprisings against Roman rule. These movements often ended in bloodshed, reinforcing the leadership's fear of any figure who might stir up the masses. What set Yeshua apart was not only his message of peace and spiritual renewal but also his enduring impact. While other messianic figures faded into obscurity, Yeshua's influence continued to grow, even after his crucifixion, a reality that profoundly disturbed the leadership. The birth of Yeshua had lasting repercussions. After his crucifixion and resurrection, his followers, who became known as Christians, continued to spread his teachings. This movement posed a new challenge to Jewish leadership, leading to increased tensions and eventual separation between Judaism and Christianity. In Acts chapter 4 verse 1-3, we see the early Christian leaders Peter and John arrested by the priests and Sadducees for preaching about Yeshua. This event illustrates the ongoing conflict between the nascent Christian movement and the Jewish authorities. The religious leadership saw the rise of Christianity as a direct threat to their authority and the unity of the Jewish people. The Talmud later reflects this tension, with passages that address the challenges posed by early Christians and other sects. Over time, the divide between Judaism and Christianity grew, but the disturbance caused by Yeshua's birth continued to echo through the centuries. It reshaped the religious landscape, not only in Israel but throughout the world. The birth of Yeshua disturbed Israel's leadership not just because of the immediate threat to their power, but because it marked the beginning of a new era, one that would challenge and transform the religious and political order. Today, the legacy of this event continues to be felt in religious and cultural practices around the world. Thank you for watching.